The NFL draft is supposed to be about building the future, but sometimes one decision haunts a franchise for decades. The New York Giants thought they were making the safe play when they passed on Shedeur Sanders. They wanted a system quarterback who wouldn't bring the circus of media, hype, and expectation that follows Deion Sanders' son everywhere he goes. Instead, they rolled the dice on Jaxson Dart.
Did he lose it?
That decision already looks like the biggest mistake in the Giants' modern history. In Cleveland, Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field and instantly looked like he belonged. Poise under pressure, perfect reads, a deep ball that silences critics. He isn't just surviving, he's thriving. Analysts are already whispering, this kid looks like the next great franchise quarterback. Meanwhile, in New York, the whispers are darker. Jaxson Dart has looked lost. Inaccurate throws, poor pocket awareness, a locker room that's already doubting his leadership. Every interception brings boos from the stands and groans across social media.
Obviously really proud of that football team in there, feeding off of each other. Was not always easy. And listen, that's a great football team on the other side. I have a ton of respect for Coach LaFleur and that group. That's a great team. And we battled to the end and made those plays when we needed to, and just fed off of each other and complimented each other. And we get that big takeaway from Grant, sets us up. We get a big play, obviously, from Q early. We get a stop, we get a block from Shelby. So it was just everybody. And then Dre came through at the end. I'm really proud of that young man. I'm happy for that young man. He's been through a lot, and he.
And every time Shedeur makes a highlight throw in Cleveland, Giants fans feel the sting of regret all over again. That it's not just about one draft pick. It's about pride, legacy, and the fact that the Giants ignored the biggest storyline in football. They didn't just pass on talent. They passed on history. And now, as Shedeur's star rises, New York is being forced to answer one brutal question. Why didn't the Giants draft Shedeur Sanders?
It felt fun. It felt fun to get out there, be with the team, going into the final week. I don't know, it's weird, considered training camp still? But all right, well, I'm just say preseason. Because on the film breakdown, I know say training camp, say preseason. All right, so final week of preseason, it's a lot because I know it's a lot of relationships with a lot of guys in the building and a lot of guys in the locker room that we all may never play on the same team again, and that's just the truth behind it. So I did everything in my power, to get out there and be ready for this week, one last time with this group.
The NFL draft is a spectacle where one decision can define an entire decade. On the night Shedeur Sanders' name sat on the board, the spotlight was brighter than ever. The son of Deion "Primetime" Sanders, the most charismatic cornerback in league history, had just completed a remarkable college career. He wasn't perfect. Critics questioned his competition level and whether his success at Colorado would translate against NFL speed. But there was no denying one thing. Shedeur had it. The Giants walked into draft night desperate for a franchise quarterback. Their offense was stagnant, the fan base restless, and the team hadn't sniffed real playoff success in years. Everyone knew this was the moment to reset the future. Analysts on ESPN and NFL Network echoed the same prediction. The Giants should not overthink this. Shedeur Sanders is right there. But then came the shock. With their pick, the Giants passed on Shedeur and selected Jaxson Dart. The announcement dropped like a bombshell in the draft room. Some fans in the crowd cheered, hoping for a fresh start. Others booed instantly, their disbelief echoing across social media. The justification came quickly. Giants executives insisted Dart was the right fit for our system. They described him as a quarterback who could manage the game, limit turnovers, and grow steadily in our scheme. Behind closed doors, whispers suggested another motive. The Giants wanted to avoid the media circus that Shedeur would bring. With his father Deion on the sidelines, every game would become a headline. The Giants didn't want a sideshow, they wanted quiet development. But football isn't built on quiet decisions. It's built on stars. That night, Shedeur's expression said everything. Calm, collected, but with fire in his eyes, he waited until the Cleveland Browns called his name. Suddenly, he wasn't just a quarterback. He was the face of a franchise hungry for hope. Browns fans erupted. Analysts praised Cleveland for stealing the most NFL-ready quarterback in the class. The Giants, meanwhile, tried to sell confidence. Their head coach smiled, their GM doubled down in interviews, and the New York media machine gave Jaxson Dart every chance to be embraced. But beneath the surface, doubt lingered. Fans flooded radio shows with outrage. One caller's words summed up the city's frustration. "We just passed on Dion's son. This will haunt us." Looking back, the irony is brutal. The Giants were afraid of Shedeur's spotlight, but by passing on him, they created a controversy bigger than anything his presence alone would have caused. They didn't just skip a talented quarterback. They walked away from the story the NFL wanted to see unfold. And in a league driven by drama, narrative, and legends, that mistake was unforgivable. When Shedeur Sanders walked into Brown's camp, the expectations were heavy. The son of Dion, primetime, Sanders wasn't just a rookie quarterback. He was a storyline. Cameras followed his every move. Critics dissected every throw, and analysts lined up to predict whether he'd sink or swim. Most rookies buckle under that kind of weight. Shedeur didn't. From day one, teammates described him as calm, unshakable, and laser-focused. Wide receivers praised his timing. Coaches marveled at how quickly he learned the playbook. And in preseason, when the speed of the NFL usually exposes rookies, Shedeur looked like he'd been here for years. His first drive ended in a touchdown. His pocket presence turned heads. By week 3 of the regular season, fans weren't just impressed. They were convinced the Browns had found their franchise quarterback. Meanwhile, in New York, the story was unraveling. Jaxson Dart, drafted ahead of Shedeur, struggled almost immediately. His first pass in preseason was intercepted. His second was nearly picked off again. Giants coaches insisted it was growing pains, but the problems didn't go away. Dart's footwork was sloppy. His decision-making was slow. Worst of all, he looked rattled every time pressure came. By the time the regular season began, comparisons were unavoidable. Every highlight from Shedeur in Cleveland was matched by a lowlight from Dart in New York. Social media made the contrast go viral. Browns fans celebrated a star in the making. Giants fans demanded answers. The numbers told the same story. Through 5 weeks, Shedeur was completing over 65% of his passes, throwing touchdowns with efficiency, and showing a maturity beyond his age. Dart, on the other hand, hovered under 50% completion, had more interceptions than touchdowns, and posted one of the lowest quarterback ratings in the league. It wasn't just about stats, it was about presence. Shedeur's teammates rallied around him. You could see it in their body language, the way they fought harder knowing he could make a play. In New York, the opposite happened. Receivers threw up their hands after missed throws. Offensive linemen slumped when another drive ended in failure. Even the defense started showing cracks. Frustrated at carrying the load, the media piled on. Headlines screamed, "Did the Giants draft the wrong QB?" Talk radio hosts hammered the front office. Former players openly questioned the decision. And with every Shedeur highlight, the regret in New York grew louder. The most painful moment came when the Browns and Giants played on the same weekend in primetime. Shedeur threw for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in a statement win. Dart? He completed just 12 passes and turned the ball over twice in a blowout loss. Social media exploded. Memes compared the two rookies, mocking the Giants' choice. For Cleveland, Shedeur wasn't just a quarterback, he was hope. For New York, Dart had become a symbol of mismanagement. And that contrast, so early in their careers, turned what could have been a normal draft debate into a full-blown nightmare for the Giants' front office by mid-season. Analysts didn't even bother asking if Shedeur was good enough. They were asking if the Giants had just made one of the worst draft mistakes in franchise history. And the painful part? Everyone in New York knew the answer. The New York Giants are no strangers to pressure. This is the franchise of Eli Manning, the franchise that twice toppled Tom Brady's Patriots on the biggest stage. Giants fans are passionate, unforgiving, and used to demanding excellence. But nothing in recent history has cut them as deeply as watching Shedeur Sanders light up the league in another uniform, by mid-season. The narrative had taken over every sports show in America. ESPN segments were headlined, "Did the Giants blow the draft?" NFL Network ran a side-by-side comparison of Shedeur's highlights and Jaxson Dart's struggles. Even late-night hosts joked that the Giants had drafted the wrong quarterback on purpose. The pressure cooker in New York was boiling over. Fans voiced their anger every Sunday at MetLife Stadium. Boos rained down on Dart with every interception. Posters appeared in the stands reading, "We want Shedeur." Radio call-ins sounded more like therapy sessions than sports debates. One lifelong Giants fan's rant went viral when he shouted, "We had Deion's son right there, and we let him walk. This isn't just a mistake, it's a curse." Meanwhile, Shedeur's legend was growing. The Browns weren't just winning, they were doing it with style. Sanders threw game-winning drives, delivered clutch passes under pressure, and carried himself like a veteran leader. Reporters marveled at his composure. Teammates praised his work ethic, and fans started whispering that Cleveland, long cursed with quarterback failures, had finally found their savior. The parallels to Brady's early years were chilling. Just as the Tuck rule had created a second life for Brady, Shedeur seemed to be benefiting from fate aligning in his favor. Defensive penalties extended drives. Controversial calls seemed to fall his way. Analysts debated whether the league was already protecting him as the face of a new era. Fair or not, the results spoke louder than the criticisms, and every week, the Giants' regret deepened. Their front office had passed on not just a quarterback, but on a cultural shift. Shedeur wasn't just a player, he was a movement. The Sanders name carried a weight that drew in fans from beyond Cleveland. Primetime's legacy had passed to his son, and the NFL leaned into the story. Jerseys sold out. National broadcasts highlighted every Browns game. Shedeur Sanders had become must-see television. For New York, the pain was doubled. Their gamble on Jaxson Dart wasn't just failing. It was exposing the franchise to ridicule. Giants beat writers whispered that the locker room was fractured. Coaches struggled to defend Dart publicly while privately questioning his future. And fans, who once begged for patience, now demanded accountability. The regret was no longer theoretical. It was financial, cultural, and emotional. The Giants didn't just pass on Shedeur Sanders. They passed on a potential dynasty, and that's the shocking truth. Because just as Tom Brady's dynasty was sparked by a single moment, the infamous Tuck rule, Shedeur Sanders' rise is being fueled by a single mistake, the Giants' decision to let him slide. That if Sanders keeps winning, if Cleveland keeps building around him, then the Giants won't just have lost a draft pick. They'll have handed another franchise the keys to greatness and locked themselves into years of asking the same haunting question: what if we had drafted Shedeur Sanders?